You may feel completely fine right now, with no pain, no pressure, and no warning signs at all. And because of that, it's very easy to assume that your heart and your arteries are working exactly the way they should. You wake up, you move through your day, you breathe normally, and nothing seems out of place. But what most people don't realize is that inside the body, especially inside the arteries that supply blood to the heart, important changes can begin long before you ever feel anything at all. And these changes don't happen suddenly. They don't start with pain. They don't start with a dramatic event. Instead, they begin quietly, slowly, and almost invisibly, building up over time without drawing attention to themselves. That is what makes them so dangerous, because while everything feels normal on the outside, something much more complex may already be happening inside. Most people imagine heart disease as something simple and mechanical, like a pipe gradually getting clogged until blood can no longer pass through. It's an easy picture to understand. A little more buildup, a little less space, and eventually, a blockage. But in reality, the human body does not behave like a simple pipe, and heart attacks do not usually begin in such a predictable way. In many cases, the arteries are not completely blocked before a heart attack happens. Blood is still moving, oxygen is still being delivered, and from the outside, nothing seems obviously wrong. This is one of the most important ideas to understand, because it explains why heart attacks can feel so sudden and unexpected. To understand what is really happening, you have to look deeper, beyond the flow of blood, and into the walls of the arteries themselves. This is where the process often begins. Inside the inner lining of an artery, tiny particles carried in the blood can sometimes slip beneath the surface. Among these particles, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, often referred to as LDL, plays a significant role. When LDL particles enter the artery wall, they do not immediately cause pain or symptoms. You don't feel them, and there is no signal that something unusual is happening. But your body notices. Your immune system reacts to these particles as if they represent a problem that needs to be addressed. White blood cells are sent to the area, and they begin trying to absorb and remove the material. At first, this response is protective. It is part of the body's normal defense system. But over time, as more particles accumulate and more immune cells gather, the situation becomes more complicated. The area becomes inflamed. This inflammation is not something you can feel directly, but it changes the environment inside the artery wall. The cells begin to interact in ways that lead to buildup rather than resolution. The white blood cells absorb lipids and transform into what are often called foam cells, creating a growing mass beneath the surface of the artery lining. This is how plaque begins to form. At first, plaque may be very small. It may not affect the flow of blood at all. The artery can expand slightly to accommodate the buildup, maintaining the space where blood moves. Because of this, even as plaque forms, blood can continue flowing relatively normally. And that's why, in the early stages, there are usually no symptoms. You feel fine. Your daily routine is unchanged. There is no clear indication that anything is wrong. But beneath that normal appearance, the structure of the artery wall is being gradually altered. Over time, the plaque can grow larger. The artery wall can become thicker and less flexible. It can lose some of its natural ability to respond to changes in blood flow. But even then, it may still not be enough to create obvious symptoms. Now here is where things become more serious and also more complex. Not all plaque behaves in the same way. Some plaques develop slowly and form a thick outer layer that separates the inner contents from the bloodstream. These are often referred to as stable plaques. They can still contribute to long-term narrowing of the artery, but they are less likely to cause sudden events. Other plaques, however, are structurally very different. These plaques often have a softer inner core and a much thinner outer covering, known as the fibrous cap. This cap is what keeps the contents of the plaque contained within the artery wall. And when this cap is strong, the plaque is relatively stable. But when the cap is thin and weakened, the situation changes. Inflammation continues to act on the plaque, gradually weakening the fibrous cap. At the same time, the constant pressure from blood flow creates mechanical stress on that thin layer. Over time, this combination of biological and physical stress can make the cap increasingly fragile, and this fragility is the key problem. Because even if the plaque is not large enough to block the artery, a thin and weakened cap can rupture suddenly. And when that rupture happens, it triggers a completely different process. The inner contents of the plaque, which have been hidden from the bloodstream, are suddenly exposed. Your body interprets this as an injury, and your body reacts immediately. Platelets, The components in your blood responsible for clotting rush to the site of the rupture. They begin to stick to the exposed surface and to each other, forming a clot. This response is fast, automatic, and designed to stop bleeding when you are injured. But inside a coronary artery, it can have dangerous consequences. Because as the clot forms, it begins to take up space inside the artery. It can grow rapidly, sometimes within seconds to minutes. And as it grows, it reduces the space available for blood to flow. If the clot becomes large enough, it can block the artery entirely. And when that happens, the flow of oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle is suddenly interrupted. The heart is highly dependent on a continuous supply of oxygen. Without it, heart cells begin to suffer damage very quickly. This is what defines a heart attack, and this entire process, from plaque rupture to complete blockage, can happen much faster than most people expect. It is not always a slow buildup over hours or days. In many cases, it is a rapid event that unfolds within minutes. This is why heart attacks often feel sudden and unexpected, because before the rupture occurred, the artery may not have been severely blocked. Blood was still flowing. There were no clear warning signs. Everything seemed normal. Then, in a very short period of time, everything changes. And this is the part that most people overlook. You do not need to feel symptoms for something serious to be developing inside your body. The absence of pain does not mean the absence of risk. In fact, some of the most dangerous processes are the ones you cannot feel at all. They build slowly, layer by layer, beneath the surface of the artery wall. They remain hidden, often for years, until one moment triggers a sudden and dramatic event. And that is why understanding what is happening inside your arteries matters. Because what you feel on the outside does not always reflect what is happening on the inside. And sometimes, by the time your body finally sends a signal, the process has already reached a critical point.